elect Chairman Pro Tem, since the Mayor and Vice Mayor are not here.
Okay, who wants to do it? Greg or Diaz? Who wants to do it? Greg, go ahead.
Thank you. Because we don't have a mayor or vice mayor here, the clerk has called the meeting to order on behalf of the mayor and council, and I guess I've been asked to run the meeting. So let's start the meeting at 4:34, 4:32. And since this is a study session, we won't be voting on anything. We'll just be getting information. So first order is Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Varona, would you lead us in the pledge?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Varona, but I'm not the mayor. First item is presentation by Santa Cruz Children's Museum, Inc. for the Palo Duro Creek lease proposal.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to declare, under the advice of, at that time, City Attorney Joe Machado indicated that I had a conflict of interest. I don't know, he put it in writing on his exit to Dr. Felix also, so I don't want to do anything that will conflict with any of the presentations. So at this time, I'm going to excuse myself due to that conflict of interest as being president of the Santa Cruz Children's Museum Board of Directors. So I will excuse myself and
Yes.
the clerk to call.
And I appreciate that, Councilmember Varona. The usual correct procedure when there is a conflict is to not be on the dais, is to actually remove from the dais to the audience.
Can I go to the other?
Absolutely.
Thank
So
you.
now the question is, without a quorum, can we?
Oh, he still counts as a quorum.
Okay.
Yes,
Perfect.
with a conflicted council member still counts towards a quorum.
Okay. So who will be speaking on behalf? Dr. Montiel?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Lucero, members of the council, City of Nogales administrative team, and citizens of Nogales. My name is Arnoldo Montiel. I reside at 1154 West Pima Place here in Nogales. I'd like to introduce myself other than just the presenter of this particular presentation. I'm also a member of the board for the Santa Cruz Children's Museum. If I say Council on Aging, that's because I use it every day, so please forgive me, but it is for the Children's Museum. The board of directors, and let me introduce them please one at a time, is Mrs. Renee Baffert Guevara, Mr. Greg Lucero, Judith Mendoza Jimenez, which, by the way, I'd like to thank for this presentation. She helped me in putting this together. Mr. Dino Panasopoulos, Fernando Parra, Linda Rushton, Tina Sanchez, our treasurer, Marta Valenzuela, our secretary, Dr. Marcelino Arona, our president, Mr. David Verdugo, and Ms. Laura Zeño. If you'll notice, all of these people are head of something in our great city, and also in Rio Rico. We have superintendents, we have principals of schools, we have medical administrators, and we have medical people who have served in the medical field. We have businessmen, we have real estate people, all important people for our city of Nogales. What is a children's museum? Children's museums are institutions that provide exhibits and programs to stimulate informal learning experiences for children. In contrast, with traditional museums typically have a hands-off policy regarding exhibits. Children's museums feature interactive exhibits that are designed to be manipulated by children. The theory behind such exhibits is that activity can be as educational as instructional, especially in early childhood. Most children's museums are nonprofit which we are, nonprofit, and they're run by volunteers. And all the people that I introduced are volunteers. We do have some paid staff members that will be associated with the museum. Now, what is the point of civic pride? What is civic pride? We are concerned citizens with a duty to help the citizens of our great city. We are engaged in promoting this particular organization. The leadership is by far, most of the people have been in some leadership positions. The responsibility, the fact that they are here, the fact that they have served for the past 2 years in putting this particular organization together. The spirit, well, the spirit is always there to help the city of Nogales and the citizens of Nogales. Goodness, well, we do it from the goodness of our heart because we think that after a certain time having lived in a wonderful city such as Nogales, we have to give something back. And of course, the excellence of producing something that is going to benefit all of Nogales and the surrounding areas. And what is the access and advocacy for children's family? Simply explained, it's engaging as many people as possible, not only in the law, the policies that are being brought forth, the services that will be provided, and practices to meet the needs of all children. We support our cause. When we talk about effectiveness in whatever field it happens to be, we refer to the standards of practice. And what are some of those standards? Well, they are to ensure the quality that what we will produce is going to be of the highest standards available to the positions that we are placed upon. And that's the responsibility of creating such a wonderful organization. We will have improvement plans. We will seek guidance where necessary. We will re-implement whatever needs to be implemented at times. And in education, we call this teaching and reteaching. So as we learn as we go along. We must provide a consistent system in evaluating the evidence of practice that are serviced to all of our community. We will target benchmarks. We will set benchmarks with each one of the things that we do, especially for the exhibits and the surrounding areas. And we facilitate continuing improvements in our projects. What is the Children's Museum? Well, it allows children to build their imagination. It helps build problem-solving skills. Children will engage in interactive exhibits that are designed to be manipulated by children in unsupervised exploratory play. This is very important. Unsupervised. Children will go into this museum and they will play with things. They will put things aside. They will take them apart, put them back together. They will play with whatever. This is not a regular museum. Regular museums, you can sit in the bench and watch something, but you can't touch. And a children's museum is exactly the opposite. We want the kids to play with whatever is available for them. It's a place for manipulation of objects, for discovery and exploration without interference. Without interference, sure, there will be some supervision, obviously, but we will allow these kids to do what they do best, and that's play. Above all, it's a place to have fun while learning. This reminds me of the time that I was principal at Mary Welty, and I used to walk into the kindergartens, which was my favorite place to be. And as the kids were drawing, I would go around the room and ask questions. What are you doing? What are you drawing? Well, this particular little girl had all kinds of lines and trees and mountains and stuff, and I said, what are you drawing? Oh, it's my house. Really? And what's that? Well, that's my dog. And what's this? And then she looked up at me and she says, don't you know anything? Kids, when they play by themselves and when they sit down to create things, it's amazing to watch them do what they do best. and that's their creativity, their manipulations of their hands, their brain, their eyes. Now, children, as well as parents or any caregiver, will experience the luxury of becoming lost in the moment of play. Dinosaurs, mathematics, science, technology. Now, these are museums that are all over the world, especially in larger cities as San Diego, Las Vegas. I've been to all of them, and they're fantastic places to be. Not only do the children play, but the parents are amazed at what goes on in these institutions. Now, where are we in this process of creating such a wonderful place for our city of Nogales? Well, we have our board of directors, and we've been working on this for 2 years now. We do have a strategic plan. We have obtained our 501c3 status, nonprofit. We have obtained a federal tax ID number. We have obtained insurance to operate as a board. Our bylaws are in place. We are a member of the National Children's Museum Association. We attend the national conference in May 2nd to the 5th of 2017 in Pasadena, California. We have submitted the proposal to the city of Nogales, and we have conducted study sessions with our city manager, Dr. Felix. Our mission for this particular museum is that the Santa Cruz Children's Museum stimulates curiosity, motivates hands-on exploration, and promotes learning. Our vision is to provide a memorable, growing experience for all our children. The core values incorporated into our museum is that each child is viewed as a unique and capable learner. Our parents, the teachers, and caregivers play a crucial role in the formation of the child and lead them to opportunities for learning. A diverse culture and linguistic needs of each child will be respected. The museum is accessible to all children. Our proposed location, should you decide, is at 2690 North Country Club Drive, which is located in the Middle Hills subdivision. This is the map. I've also placed a larger map that Mr. Flores has graciously made for us in case you would like to view the areas that we are looking for. More explanation can be made by Mr. Flores if you wish at this time. And what are the current conditions of this property? That's what it looks like when the weeds are up. That empty space, which is nice and mowed, belongs to Mr. Corey. He does that for our city. These are just pictures that I took when the rain just came. That's the parking lot that is situated next to the buildings. And in the fall, this is what it looks like right now. Weeds, more weeds, and more weeds. Our plan is to rebuild this area at our expense. I will emphasize, at our expense. We will not ask the city to come forth with any money to put this place back to where it belongs. And that's in the hands of the citizens of Nogales, so that the people who live in Middle Hills will have a better place to live, a place where they can view wonderful things. That's looking south from the driving range. That's the patio as it looks now. That's behind the buildings. For you golfers, that's where the golf carts were. And there's the potential about the before and after, what we can do. To the right is what it can look like, and that includes the birds. That's me sitting at the bench in the future. That's not me riding a bike, because I think I forgot how to ride it. And what's our next step? Well, our next step is to present to the City of Nogales, which we're doing now, the acceptance or denial of our proposal that has been submitted since August of last year, and to begin improvements and installation of the Santa Cruz Children's Museum at our expense. Given the opportunity, we can transform a piece of real estate that has been an eyesore for many years into a fabulous place that can be enjoyed and to be proud of, but not only the residents of the area, but by thousands of children, parents, godparents, seniors, and environmentalists seeking to enjoy a beautiful, peaceful, and a safe haven for the citizens of Nogales. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. Any questions? Not all at once. Doctor, I've got a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
You didn't cover public outreach, and I know the group has had meetings in the neighborhood, and you've also
Yes.
had meetings at the school.
We've had, in the past 2 years, we've had 2 meetings in Meadow Hills with the residents of Meadow Hills. And our first meeting, we had a couple of people that were very concerned about traffic and so on and so forth. Once we explained what we were doing and what our intentions were to beautify the area and to make sure that there was plenty of parking for everybody without interrupting anything else that was going on a normal pace. After that, then it has been nothing but acceptance, approval, and nothing but positive comments about what our intentions are in this place.
And you've also had some meetings with the 2 school districts, I believe?
Yes, sir. Mr. Parra, superintendent of Nogales Unified School District, and the superintendent of Rio Rico. We've had meetings with them. They are part of our board, sir. So they are very much aware of what we can do. Remember, we have thousands of children that we will serve. Thousands. Not just Nogales. I'm talking about Nogales, Sonora. In case some of you don't know, statistically, Tucson Children's Museum, largest audience are kids from Nogales, Sonora, and Hermosillo. So we will be serving not only our community, we will be serving the surrounding areas to include Sonora.
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember.
Yeah, Mr. Montiel. Roughly, we're talking about 45 acres. You're what's in the green. So outside of the actual Children's Museum, which would be indoors, there will be an outdoor facility?
Yes. This map was provided for the council people, and the portions and the parcels in green are what we are interested in. And it is in 3 phases. The first phase is this phase here, where the buildings are in Meadow Hills, where the golf course used to be. Those are our first phase, and that's to bring it up to code, build whatever we need to build, make it safe for everybody to be. And I showed you some pictures there about what it looks like now. This is not working anymore. Anyway, so it's in 3 phases. The first phase is where the buildings are. The second phase is going to be that parcel that is between the orange, okay? And then the third phase will be where the ponds are. So we are asking for 3 phases.
Now, Mr. Montiel, now the actual golf course, did that encompass all of the green area, or just part of the green area? Because as we see, I thought it was much bigger, to tell the truth, but the actual where it sits right now, where the clubhouse sits, is at the bottom part where it says
Yes,
17.
sir. That's the bottom.
It says 17. That's
Right.
That's where it sits.
Yes, sir.
Right, and then it would come up. Now, was there a golf course in the 9.5 acres? Was there a golf course in there? Was that part of the
Yes,
golf course?
that was part of number 9.
Okay, and then it would continue up to the where it's 16.56 acres.
That's the 16.56 is where the ponds are.
Okay, and now that red area,
Yes, That does not belong to the city of Nogales.
And that was sold,
Mr. Flores can address the issue of the orange part, okay? If you'd like to hear from him.
okay. Because looking back, I remember when this property belonged to Mr. Kiki Liñeiro, and then he sold it to the city. But I don't remember the red areas.
Members of council, my name is Manuel Flores. I live in 1771 Mesquite Lane in Meadow Hills. Just for your knowledge, this property in red color belongs to Federal Housing Partnership Limited. This paper I get it today from Santa Cruz County Recorder's Office.
Is that a federal government department?
No,
or-
according with the county assessor, is somebody private.
Oh, it's a private?
Yes.
It's a private individual. Does it say there when that was purchased or not?
No, just the acreage and just the normal things of the recorder's office.
Does anybody know when that was, I mean, going back, I don't think, trying to think back 50 years, I can't, might have been sold before that, I don't know. Okay, so there will be, Mr. Montiel, there will be an outdoor area?
Yes, most definitely. The outdoor area will be the first parcel, phase 1, where you saw the patio.
Mm-hmm.
That would be an outdoor, and then part of the what used to be the golf range, the
Right.
the range, that will be definitely an outdoor area. We will start mowing all of that. We will start resurfacing all the paths so people can walk and ride their bikes and so on and so forth. But the first phase will include outdoor areas.
Mm-hmm.
The buildings, which used to be the one where the restaurant was, will be the actual exhibits for the kids
Right.
of the museum.
And now there has been an outreach to the neighborhood there,
Yes, sir.
and how has that gone?
Positive.
It's all
We
been-
have many of the residents. Raise your hand if you're from Meadow Hills, please. Thank you, Mr. Lucero.
So, Mr. Lucero, do you have a question?
Yeah, and this is more for staff. I believe we issued an RFP back last year on, to accept proposals to do something with this property, and just how many proposals did we receive, and what was the next step in acting?
To my knowledge, this was the only proposal that
So this is the only proposal that was received, so at this time it'd be dependent now for city staff to come back to mayor and council with a recommendation on the proposal received.
right.
Do you have any idea when that might happen?
Sooner rather than later.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Quick question.
Yes.
How are you going to fund this project, and what kind of a commitment do you need from the city of Nogales?
The commitment from the city of Nogales is to allow us to go in there and do what we need to do to put that particular area up to par. Now, funding we have. We have up to $250,000 available to us.
And this will be run by volunteers, or?
Well, the board is made up of volunteers, and the initial start will be from volunteers. We will eventually hire administrators, okay, to be at the site, and then of course we have to hire security. We have to hire people to do maintenance, etc. It's going to be it's a business, but it's a non-profit business. But the members of our board will be there to make sure that it's run correctly.
Yes, go ahead, Councilman.
Now, Mr. Mayor, are there any architectural renditions we can look at? I mean, the idea, first of all, of cleaning up the area is wonderful, right? So that's a foregone conclusion there, right? The idea of a children's museum would also be very, very nice for the city of Nogales. Again, it would put it in par with, I don't think Sierra Vista has one.
No, they don't.
I don't think Douglas has.
Tucson and Phoenix are the other ones that have them.
Tucson, Phoenix, maybe Flag.
I'm not aware of
I don't
Flagstaff.
know, yeah.
No.
So it would really change the whole attitude there. And obviously, I guess, once it's cleaned up, if you have bicycle paths and all that, it would be a wonderful addition to the city of Nogales. But as it is right now, obviously we have to have an agreement with the city,
Exactly.
and maybe that would be the next step.
Well, we have an attorney that could draw up the agreements along with the city of Nogales, working with Dr. Felix. So we're prepared. We have people that will know what to do, what needs to be done to bring it up to code. We have the legal aspect of it. We have the funding. I think we are prepared to help the city of Nogales be placed in the map.
Now, there will be the architectural renditions just to have a complete idea or a better idea of what the funding would be, right?
Yes, sir.
You know,
But that's our, that will be our responsibility.
I hate to commit you to something that says that you need $10 million in funding, right? Or,
We don't have 10 million.
well, I mean, all I'm saying is you hate to get committed to something like that, right?
That's protecting ourselves.
So, but I think it's a wonderful idea. I would love to see the continuation of it, and maybe the next step would be some architectural renditions. Right?
Well, that's up to Mr. Felix to allow us to what the next step is. We are ready for whatever Mr. Felix wants.
Or I think maybe the next step would be for there an option to come out, giving you a X amount of time to come up with what exactly.
I would have to go to the board on something like that and have our president recite on that. But it's a go, I hope.
Yeah.
Because this is for Nogales. This is for the kids, and it's for everyone concerned.
I think we all agree. I don't think there's any negative spot on it.
And I
Mr.
guess,
Mayor?
one more question. Yes, Doctor.
Yeah, I have a question. Asking for architectural plans is premature and putting the cart before the horse. Unless this organization has an approval to go forward, there's no reason to spend any money on architectural design if the answer is no. First, we need at least a letter of commitment from the city saying, yes, we're interested, we would like to proceed. We have, from Mr. Felix, a particular program that we have in mind that we'd like to approve. And then once that is seen, then money can be spent on architectural design. It serves no purpose to spend several $1,000s on beautiful architectural design if the board at the end says, well, we really don't.
Well, I think that would be kind of for where the option would be no money involved, just have an option so you do have the time to do that, right?
Yeah.
So that everybody can legitimately have an idea of correctly what you want to do and all that.
Yeah, but this doesn't cost money. I mean, if you're asking for architectural design.
Well, I'm saying the option would be at no money, right? Obviously, you're going to have to do some architectural designs.
No doubt.
So as long as you know that you have an option to go ahead and do it.
That's right.
Maybe the correct word would not be the option, right?
We need a green light from the city saying, we are in agreement that this should go forward, then money can be spent. Because up to now, we have no indication whether it's yea or nay.
Well, again, it could be the agreement is jumping the deal, especially if we do agree, which I think is very possible. We do agree. Go ahead and start your due diligence,
Right.
because that's what's needed is due diligence.
I agree.
To find out exactly what it is, right?
Right,
You know?
but we need an indication from the board saying, we think it's a good idea, we're all in agreement that if the architectural designs are acceptable, we will agree to something like this.
Well, I don't know. Is this an action item or?
No.
So it's just
A study session.
yeah, it's just a study session. So that would come next,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And basically, I guess Dr. Felix and the legal department could advise us exactly
Right.
how to proceed, right?
I'm just wondering, would you require the expenditure for architectural design before we have?
I don't think so. All it is we have to know what you're going to do.
Sure.
I mean, for
Yeah, well, then-
for us to sit here and say we're going to build the Getty Museum,
No,
it
I
makes no
understand.
sense.
And I understand
right?
what the doctor is saying. Once we get the okay from the city to proceed, then whatever follows, designs, etc., legal, comments that need to be made, then it'll be made.
Well, again, they'll have to figure it out. I think there's got to be due diligence done on both sides, and then we can proceed, right? And that due diligence, as long as the city basically commits to not doing anything else with anybody else, then you've got the good idea, yeah, let's do the presentation. Let's get on with it. Obviously, I don't want you to spend $200,000 on architectural conditions, right? But you know, just a better idea for the community, and I think for the board here, and actually for the board that's on the
So, Judge,
Children's
the
Museum.
preliminary drawings, those are feasible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just due diligence, and I think that would take.
And
care
you
of
know
it.
what? We have that already.
Yeah,
Yes, Councilman, and I give the floor now to Councilman Lucero.
if you like.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Felix, but the RFP process should have outlined the process to
Right.
follow once the proposals were
We'll
received.
start working with the board and detail out the timelines and the conceptual plans and the due diligence on all the structures that are going to go on and the progression in terms of the acquisition of the property. So it'll take a while, but the green light is
And-
have us start working on this.
And right now, we've got an entity that's willing to take on, right now, what appears to be an eyesore, and the building is in a dilapidated state, so unless the city is willing to step forward and commit funds to improving both the facility and the property, I think we need to take advantage of at least a group of individuals that's willing to put time and energy into fixing the property. And since I'm the only one on the council that lives in Meadow Hills, I, for one, would like to see something done with that city property other than having the continue weed fest growing out there. So I'm in favor of moving forward with something being done there.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
So I think the next step would be to put it on an agenda item with an action taken on the deal.
So any more questions from the council? No? Well, seeing none, we want to thank you for that presentation. It goes along with us, with our plan of a progressive city. We want to thank you for.
Thank you, Mayor.
All the work you.
And thank you, Council.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing that we're done with this presentation, we're going to go to the discussion items. A, Calle Sonora Bridge Road widening. I believe staff has.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Here we are again, giving an update from last month to now. So let me. So last month I had the opportunity to give an update about where we are with this project. Last month we were in the process of selecting an engineering firm, and we formed a selection committee integrated by 5 members of the community, and we selected a company. Let's see. This is what we accomplished last month, sending to SIGO the request for inclusion of this project in the Transportation Improvement Program. I sent a letter to SIGO requesting that project, and also we selected the consultant firm, the consulting engineering firm. We are here in April, still working with the consultant. He's getting proposal from different parts of the team, the soils engineering firm, the right-of-way company who will be working as part of the team, the structural engineering firm. So it's a big group of engineering firms. So he stated that in the next week or so he will have the proposal ready. So we'll digest it and see if everything looks okay, and play a little bit with the proposed funding, the proposal, and see if it's convenient based on standard engineering costs. So In case of we don't like the proposal by the consultant selected, we can move forward with the next consultant if we don't like the proposal. So right now at this point we only need to start the negotiation with the consultant and see if it sounds okay. And if we think it's okay, we'll start working in a formal contract with them to be presented in May or so if we are lucky and to have the proposal soon and take the time to review it. So possibly we can present a contract in May, if not in June. But between May and June, we can have the kickoff meeting if everything goes okay. These were the companies who submitted their statement of qualifications. Kimberly Horn was the selected company by all the selection committee members. Rick Engineering is the second in row. Again, in case of if we disagree with the proposal from Kimberly Horn, we can jump to start negotiation with Rick Engineering. So these were the selection committee members. Jesus Valdez from the Santa Cruz County, Mr. Barcenas, Alejandro Barcenas from City of Nogales, J.B. Manson from Pacific Brokerage, and Scott Vanderbilt, Fresh Pros Association, and myself. So. Okay. I just wanted to give you a brief idea the kind of lengthy process that we are initiating with this project. This is a widening a bridge, expanding in, acquiring additional right-of-way, dealing with Union Pacific, utilities. It will be a significant, very time-consuming project. So this is the ADA life cycle. We do have to work with ADA and the federal guidelines. It's something that we cannot avoid. So we have to go through they call it local public agency manual, step by step. This is a summary of the different steps that ADA requires and the federal governments as well. In the next few slides, I will give you a video. I will show a video about the steps necessary to follow the federal guidelines. This is. We always say if we move forward with the design phase, we'll according to the consultant, it will take us about 2 years, just the design phase, dealing with utility relocation, Union Pacific, right-of-way acquisition. So it's more or less an average time. So and then the construction is faster, but the design it takes a while. We are planning to have a minimum 2 public meetings where we'll get the participation from the community, from the Monte Carlo area, the warehouses around the area, and all the beneficiaries and affected neighborhoods. Just to give you, again, just to do not forget that the main concept proposed during the constraints analysis, there are 2 preliminary layouts. According to the consultant engineering firm, both of them works okay. At that time, when these concepts were developed, the mayor and council at that time were more in favor with this runabout. But nothing is written. We also have this option. That according to the consultant, both of them works. The main thing here is that Calle Sonora will have additional storage for from that short block from Hohocan to Grand Avenue. The widening will match the cross section on Mariposa Road that is coming in the 2019 NADA project. And the idea is to have a dedicated right-turn lane at Mariposa, Mariposa and Grand Avenue, and a straight through lane and a left turn lane. So that will be significant to assist with the traffic congestion there. And in addition, both of the layouts prohibit the left turns. That's what creates the traffic congestions, and with these layouts the consultant is trying to eliminate left turns and avoid that kind of issues. So this is sorry, I went too far, so let me go back. Well, this is the last video, but okay, this is the introduction to right-of-way acquisition. It's a video that it's about 6 minutes, but it's very interesting. Can give us a little bit of education about the process that we'll starting to deal with.
If a local public agency needs to acquire vacant property or property improved with a home or business to construct a federal aid project, the local public agency must follow a process for acquiring that property. Federal right-of-way requirements apply if federal dollars are used to fund any phase of the project. Failing to meet the right-of-way requirements can jeopardize your project from being eligible to receive federal funds. For this reason, it's important to know the federal requirements and when they apply. When an agency acquires property for a federal aid project, right-of-way requirements are in place to provide benefits, protection, and payment of just compensation. When a project displaces an individual, family, business, farm, or nonprofit organization, additional services and payments are required. The Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policies Act of 1970, otherwise known as the Uniform Act, is the primary but not exclusive law for right-of-way related acquisition and relocation activities on federal aid projects. The Uniform Act establishes the requirements and procedures that you, as a local public agency, must follow when federal dollars are used to fund a project.
The Uniform Act consists of 3 titles or parts. Title I, the General Provisions, contains definitions and eligibility criteria for displaced persons. Title II addresses relocation assistance. This part contains housing payments for owners and tenants and assures that displaced persons are provided with comparable replacement housing prior to displacement. This section also covers moving and related expenses, as well as relocation planning and advisory services. Title III establishes the policy and requirements for acquiring property on federal aid projects. In this section, standards are set for appraisals, offers, negotiations, payment, possession, settlement, and other equitable considerations. The Uniform Act and right-of-way requirements apply anytime an agency seeks to acquire real property to make way for the construction of a federal aid project. Real property is a term that is used to describe land or improvements to land, fee interests, easements, air or access rights, or the rights to control the use of land, such as leases. For example, an agency might ask a property owner to convey a temporary or permanent easement in order to construct a project. When agencies acquire temporary or permanent easements from a property owner, that agency is acquiring real property interests, which is considered right-of-way. Because this is a federal aid project, the Uniform Act and right-of-way requirements would apply. In order to comply with right-of-way related requirements on federal aid projects, you must understand when to follow the requirements. The Uniform Act requirements apply anytime real property or interests in real property is required for a project, and the agency chooses to use federal aid funds in any phase of the project. Anytime people or businesses are displaced by a project, and the agency chooses to use federal funds for any phase of that project. These requirements must not be overlooked in a situation where a project does not use federal funding until the construction phase. For example, many agencies use local money to fund the design and right-of-way phases of a project. Upon reaching the construction phase of the project, a request for federal assistance is made. The project would be eligible for federal funds provided the agency complied with the requirements of the Uniform Act during the right-of-way phase of the project. Now that we understand when right-of-way requirements are applicable, let's review the right-of-way procedures that an agency needs to follow. These procedures ultimately determine just compensation. If it is determined that real property is needed to construct the project, the appropriate right-of-way procedures should be followed. Here is an overview of the primary steps an agency must follow to meet the requirements of the Uniform Act. First, you must determine the fair market value of the property being acquired. Next, you must offer just compensation and negotiate the acquisition of the property or property interests. Finally, after acquiring the property, the agency must provide relocation assistance to those who are displaced. If all attempts to negotiate an agreement to acquire property fail, it may be necessary for your agency to exercise the power of eminent domain. Property acquired through eminent domain means the government uses its power to acquire private property for a public use. Each state has specific laws governing condemnation procedures. Make sure you are familiar with your state's requirements.
The Uniform Act is the primary law for right-of-way related acquisition and relocation activities on federally assisted projects. Right-of-way requirements are applicable if an agency chooses to accept federal funds for any phase of a project that acquires real property or displaces people or businesses. State Departments of Transportation play a vital role in the right-of-way process on federal aid projects, and they are available to provide assistance when you have questions concerning right-of-way and the Uniform Act.
So this is very applicable to us. So this is exactly what we are doing, what we are planning to do. And we also have federal funding already not secure, but at least committed to be received in 2021. So by then, we might be done with the design phase. But it's 1.5 million requested to the federal government from CMAQ funds, so congestion mitigation, air quality funds. I want to show you another video that I skipped here. It's one of the commitments by the consultant that we are negotiating now. To the part of the design, they will also include some kind of it's a traffic simulation. It's very interesting. This will be part of the product that they will deliver. We will see that intersection with all the forecasting traffic counts and the design, whatever we choose, and they will test it if everything will work okay. They did this job recently in the city of Tucson, but it is very interesting software, new technologies that it tells you right away if there is a potential conflict in the design. This is for a 5-minute one, so it's just an idea. Any question?
Yes, go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Guerra, what about the overweight fees? Are you counting on any money on that? Because it looks like we've committed most of that money to the 189. Are you looking at us setting aside some money for this project?
Well, that was the idea at the beginning when Mayor and Council instructed us to move forward with the design phase. We were thinking in the overway fee. I have not checked the balance that we have, but I know I'm aware that part of the money, the overway fee, was committed to other projects like the CDBG and the Colonias grant. But I guess it's enough money, right, still to continue with the design phase. So, but not enough for the completion of the maybe the right-of-way acquisition and things like that.
And is Calle Sonora listed on the permit? Is that one of the permissible streets that we can spend money on?
Yes, because it's related. If we think that the overway fee is related to produce industry, yes. Any kind of trucking.
Any kind of truck.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be in a particular list.
And I was told before that we are not stick to any kind of restriction with that, right? For the use of the overway fees, we don't have to use it.
That is my understanding, right. There's no particular restriction on the use of those monies other than using them for the improvement of streets.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilman Cedar.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I guess the question is, Calle Sonora is not one of the streets that are specifically listed on the overweight fee permit.
I'm not. I need to check, but I need to check the map. But the map was not. I remember the map prepared was not very accurate map because it was also showing private roads and not related roads. So I think it's not a very valid map at the beginning.
Well, it's a critical question because if vehicles are paying to use streets that are on that permit, and my understanding is if they go off those roads with overweight vehicles, then they are fined. So in my mind, the map should be fairly accurate because if they're not, then people can be driving their overweight vehicles all over city streets.
Yeah, that's a good point, Councilman Lucero, because right now there is no kind, to the best of my knowledge, there is nothing like police officers are checking any truck in the road if they are overweight or not, and they are over the citywide, everywhere. So we are not sure if they are following the map that was originally planned. So that's a difficult situation to do.
And I guess that's an unsubstantiated claim at this point that overweight vehicles are traveling all over city streets. So exactly. I would probably like to have the produce growers answer that question, because that's been their bone of contention, is that the city is using these overweight fees on all city streets, and their claim is that overweight vehicles are limited to those city streets. So if they're driving all over the place, then we should be able to use that money all over to take care of city streets.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments on this issue? And I think that's been one of the things that has been contentious in the past, that there's a lot of streets that are not part of that street plan, but yet overweight trucks are going over them. And they do cause the deterioration and the breakdown of those streets, which the city of Nogales is responsible and liable to maintain. So it's good to make a note of that and kind of keep an eye on our overweight fees. Maybe kind of keep a monitor and keep us up to date on that. Okay, see nothing else on the Calle Sonora. Are we going to have another update down the road before?
Sure. Yeah. Again, we are in the process of negotiating a proposal with the consultant. We'll receive that proposal very soon, in the next few weeks. We'll check it, and then if we think that is a good proposal, so we will be able to make. First of all, we'll check the available budget from the overweight fee, because that was the original plan, to rely on the overweight fee for the design phase. So check the balance that we have with finance, and if we can move forward with the design, so we'll present a contract.
And then there's one more question I have, or comment to make to staff on the upcoming election for the home rule. If for whatever reason it doesn't pass, does that affect any of our immediate projects that we're planning on, as far as the money to spend on those projects?
Very much so, Mayor.
We need an update on that. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Gill. Okay, seeing that we are done with Calle Sonora Ridge Road widening, we'll go to B, discussion, review of city charter proposed revisions by City Council. I think in the past, Councilman Varona,
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
you've had some
Thank you, Mayor.
things to point out.
I just want to make sure, Dr. Felix, that as we move on here, that Mr. Massey is responsible for this, so that I've kind of lost track of all of the input from all of the council of the proposed changes. Maybe at the next meeting, you can give us some of all of these proposed changes that we have alluded to in the new verbiage and all that, so we can start making sure we meet our legal deadlines for that.
Right. I mean, if we have a couple of minutes, I can just go over what has been submitted as part of the council package.
Okay, because I just have two other suggestions.
Oh, very good. So these are just rough suggestions at this point. Mr. Mayor, take these and pass those down. I guess one more. Thank you. And so what I'm showing you right now is the current organization of the city charter. And there's a chapter called Chapter 8, Administration, and it starts out with Section 66, listing the city departments. And I think that... Would you need one more copy?
Okay.
At least one more.
So, and I think the comments that I received from previous meetings was, why are we listing departments that we don't fund? Why are departments that we do fund aren't listed? And so I looked at some of the other cities' charters and how they organize their section under administration. When they start dealing with this sort of topic, what will be the departments or how the departments get listed. So my suggestion, and what I've seen, especially I was looking at the Phoenix Charter, is you start off under administration, naturally I think, with the city manager. So we would move those sections relating to city manager to front and center. So section 66 would be appointment of city manager, 67, 68, with one slight exception, and I'll get to that in a little bit. The suggestion is not to change the substance, just to change the order. And then the big change, so to speak, is the proposed section 75, which is, I think, on the, if you have the agenda materials, section 75 I took right from, this is again the draft new language, taken right from the Phoenix Charter, which says instead of listing the departments, it says that city council, with the suggestion of the city manager, will by ordinance create city departments. And then also going along with what was provided in the council packet material is a proposed ordinance that would list the specific departments with some of their authority. So the idea is, instead of having it in the charter listing specific departments and explaining what departments do, because it hasn't withstood the test of time. We no longer have a public health department that's funded via the state, and the county has those responsibilities now. We have an HR department, we have a housing department. That's not listed in the charter. Instead of making the changes and putting those specific departments in the charter, as the proposal suggests, is just put in the charter the fact that the city council will create departments by ordinance. And then it's much easier to update via ordinance change than it is to update by charter change.
Yeah, I agree with
Does that strike everyone's as a sensible approach?
It
to
gives
not-
the mayor and council flexibility instead
Correct.
of having to go back to a vote of the people.
Correct. So if this proposal is accepted by council at a future, future council action item, it would go to the voters, obviously, and the proposal would be take the departments out of the charter, but put the authority to create departments, this general power, in the charter. One other, or actually two other substantive proposals that are presented in this paperwork is one on section 76. Again, that's going to be part of the administrative chapter on contracts. Right now it says for every construction contract over $5,000 it has to be bid, a sealed bid and notice in the newspaper 2 times under separate weeks. And so the suggestion would be $5,000 is very low, but instead of saying that would be shifted up higher, it would still be at $5,000, but it would be competitively bid in accordance with law. And so right now, when it's over approximately $200,000, like a water project, a building construction project, something like that, Title 34 from the Arizona state statutes has specific requirements on how it's to be bid, and a sealed proposal, a request for proposal, is either that or an equivalent is required. But for less than those items that are triggered under the statute, it would be the city's procurement code that would control how the competitive process goes forward. And we are working on updating the procurement code as well to make sure that our procurement code is as up to date as necessary. The other suggestions, and again, this is actually not even a suggestion, it's just an option for future council discussion. Phoenix and Marana, the way that they select their city attorney, they show them as a regular department head selected by city manager. So there's language in there that would show what changes would need to be made to the charter if the council wants to forward that suggestion to the voters. Again, it would require an affirmative vote of council, and the question gets forwarded to voters, and the voters would have to be persuaded that that was an acceptable change.
It would keep us from fighting.
It would keep us from what?
Fighting.
And what yours was to put all of those?
There would be like separate questions that would go. We try to keep the questions down to a minimum number. And the other thing is the city magistrate right now is how it's presented is section 71, again, treated as a department head. The suggestion would be to pull that out and make it its own chapter, the way that other city charters do, where you have separate. Right now it's one of the largest sections there under Chapter 8. Again, Chapter 8 is administration. A city court is, I think, much more than administration, and that's how I've seen other cities deal with that. You have a separate chapter, you specify the jurisdiction of the court, you specify how judges are selected, you specify how even judges pro tems could be selected. But anyways, you keep that again down to relative basic minimum as part of the charter, and then you supplement with ordinance on how procedures are followed. Yeah. So that's the idea, again, to pull the city court out as a separate chapter instead of being part of the administrative chapter. So really it's more like a cleanup. It's kind of organizational. There's a couple of substantive proposals there for consideration. Any other feedback at any time, we'll get together and we'll get some language together.
Did it cover your question on public works?
On public works? I'm sorry, Mayor.
Yes, that's one of the concerns that you had originally on things as far as...
Well, the public works department, yes, they would still be under the auspices of the city manager.
Right, and of course that would be dealt with like all the departments, subject to adoption by an ordinance. And there's a very rough ordinance that's being submitted as what an right now our city code under administration only has 3 sections, and that's the area where other cities put under the administration under their code, not their charter. That's where they say, here's the city manager, here's his responsibilities, here's the department heads, here's their responsibilities in each department, and that's where you can flesh out, you know, the responsibilities and enumerate the departments that will, you know, fulfill the city's mission.
On the city magistrate, is that still going to be, as you have written it, a proposal to be appointed by the mayor and council, or is that?
I haven't changed that. That's how it is now. So the language doesn't change. The other alternative to that is really doing like a judicial election committee process, very, you know, citizen oriented.
Just looking at it,
I think most cities do it by
election. Be an election.
Oh, an election.
Yes.
You know, I haven't seen that as done anywhere. But I mean, just because we could be unique in that.
Well, you might look at it for the next time to look at it. We're just cleaning it up.
Right, right. That would be more of a substantive change. I'm trying to minimize substantive changes and just kind of organize and do organizational type changes.
Then I would like to see 2 points here. One, when a member of the council wants to call for a special meeting to discuss something, I just want to make sure that we're clear on what, if I want to call for a special meeting to talk about X, Y, and Z, I have to turn that over to the city clerk. The city clerk has to call the members of the council to see if there's enough people who are interested to show up for the meeting. I just want to make sure that the agenda that is submitted can be added to, but that original agenda cannot be altered.
Right, and that's another topic that I was discussing with Dr. Felix today. That is really under a topic of council procedure.
Okay.
And again, that's something that could be the subject of an ordinance as opposed to a charter. But unless the ordinance is amended, it controls. So that's sort of a middle ground, that this will be the procedure that controls unless and until a future council decides that the procedure doesn't work, and then they could actually go through the process of amending an ordinance. And I think based on Dr. Felix's comments to me, we'll be coming back with a proposed ordinance for council procedure. And that could be part of the city code. Right, that would be part of the city code, not the city charter.
But the city code would be changed with the changing of the mayor and council.
Well, the city code can be changed because it's an ordinance with mayor and council, right. City charter obviously requires the election process.
And you didn't mention anything about the selection of the vice mayor.
Okay.
We talked about
I
that.
think I overlooked that. Thank you for reminding me, Dr. Roy.
We have that. We run into some problems among ourselves with the selection of the vice mayor, deputy mayor, whatever you want to call it. Now, recently we've had some problems here with the process that we go through to select the city attorney. Okay. So I was thinking that maybe my contention is right now, even though when I was part of the committee who originally did the charter changes, going from a strong form of mayor government to a city manager form of government, we kept the city attorney as under the mayor and council.
Correct.
In case there was a problem between the mayor and council and the city manager. There was a problem there. The city attorney was an employee of the mayor and council and not the city manager. So if we had something to do with his contract or something, the city manager would have to go and get his own legal. Now I'm looking at it because I'm looking at a proposal for the mayor and council to put down that the city attorney and the city clerk be part of the city manager's scope of authority. Okay? we've tried to go through this with us going, going out and advertising, find the most qualified person to go ahead and do that. And it just doesn't seem to work, and this last time it was extremely contentious. And the contentious has just exceeded the bounds of decency here. And the reason I want to change my position from what it was originally is because under, this is even so disturbing to me. Under, I feel like our form of government is being put at peril here. But under the freedom of information, I discovered that the mayor's secretary has been recording on his city phone meetings supposedly in the mayor's office, which I can't understand. They have 8 recordings of this going on. And it was upsetting to me that this was happening. The transcript of February the 12th was disheartening to me, the comments that were made in the transcript that I have. And these comments, that even comments of illegal things that are occurring, and that we don't have a sense of, we are a city manager form of government. I don't want to mention the names of the employees. I don't think it's appropriate for me to mention names of employees. But I think it's time now that the people, we need to grab a hold of how our future, how we self-govern ourselves is going to occur. There's 8 recordings. 2 of them were vetted. But still, you know, here, this comment made by the mayor's secretary, and I'm not trying to take anything out of context, okay? Everything is here. Everything is in writing, and it's public information. I don't want to go through the whole thing. I just want to, why do I want, what is my contention that I've changed my mind to go from the city attorney and the city clerk to be under the auspices of the mayor and council, and give the people a decision to put it under the city manager now instead of us. But extremely mind-boggling to me is when the mayor's secretary makes a comment. It wasn't legal to do this investigation because of my current position. That's why I didn't include my name or anything. It's just observations made by somebody who's truthful and honest in what they say, nothing else. And then Mr. Williams saying maybe she knows her time is short. And as they know now that there is a whole new system, time to clean house. And that's not what we are about. That's not what I was elected to be here for. If I'm going to be here for that, if anybody wants my position, you can have it. Okay? I took an oath to protect the Constitution and to protect our form of government. That's what I took my oath on. If it has to be something different, well, I'll just go find something else to do. But I think it's time that we do this. You know, well, why is the secretary referring? He's got to get rid of the rats. What rats? You know, we have good people here. But I just want you to know that I'm just extremely disappointed, and that is my reasoning. That is my reasoning, what I want to have the people decide, that we put the city attorney, the city clerk, under the auspices of the city manager. I think it'll help us to get better qualified people here to serve the residents of Nogales.
Okay, Councilman Lucero?
I just would like get a risk assessment from the city attorney. I don't want to have a discussion that puts us at risk, so I'm uncomfortable having this dialogue.
That's an interesting analysis that I haven't even begun to think about. So I think that it would be nice to move on.
Okay. Okay, any other comments?
You will put what I said, whether we're going to move on. I mean, everything's public, but if you want to move on, it's fine.
I mean, from a risk assessment point of view, I think. But ultimately, it's the mayor who's chairing the meeting.
Okay.
So the mayor will decide whether and how
That's
to run them.
All right. So I guess we pretty much brought out the points of interest and those changes. We're down to adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Study session adjourned. Thank you very much.